Yeah.
All right. Well, I'm here with Jonathan. Jonathan, tell me how to pronounce your last name so I don't get in trouble.
It's in French, it's Leveillé, but in English, I really don't know how to say it correctly. You can go with Leveillé, it's okay.
The belly. Okay, cool. That sounds fine. Like I said, we're excited. I'm Matt Granados. I'm the host of Best People, Best Place. And Jonathan, to have you on after doing the research of what you've done with your company, um, I, I'm energized. I don't even work for you, and I'm energized. So what you've built is amazing. In a time where motivation is a challenge, intentionality is a challenge, getting your people to do what they should be doing is a challenge. I mean, look, it's always been a challenge, but you have done some amazing things that I think other people need to hear about. So I'm so grateful for you to be on here. And to normally I would say, all right, list some of the places you've been recognized as a good place to work, but unfortunately, um, you had to have submitted 30 of them. I mean, your company is all over the place as just an absolutely awesome place for you to work. So do me a favor, tell me real quick, where did this philosophy come from of just taking care of your people properly?
That's a really good question. First of all, I didn't have any job before I started online when I was 19 years old. So it's like default mindset for me to treat people like that because I think it would be the kind of job or the kind of place that I would want to apply and have a job on. So I think it's a default mode, and I think if we want to achieve big goals, we need to have a good team that is really committed, and to have a good team that is really committed, we need to take care of them. If we take care of them, they're going to take care of the customers and they're going to take care of the business. So I think it's more a default mode in my mind. And I think I wanted to build a business that would be the perfect business where I would want one day to apply if I had a job to search sometime or somewhere.
That's awesome, right? So we break this up into three sections. Section one is all about growing your team, right? Growing your people as employees, and the whole podcast is sponsored by Life Pulse. Life Pulse is an international training organization that specializes in combining intention and structure to help individuals and companies get exactly what they want. So when it comes to your people, you have some pretty crazy core values. Ones that I think people should pay attention to. So out of all of the core values, I picked my favorite. Which of your what are your top two? I'll give you three because you got a lot. But what are your favorite core values that you have that you work with your team on?
I love it, all of them. But if I had to choose two or three, first of all, would be work hard, play hard for sure. I think it's really important. It's really important to be 100 committed at what we do at work and have a lot of fun inside the time that we work and outside of the time that we work. So work hard, play hard, every time full speed ahead. It's my philosophy, and I would try to bring it almost all the time in what we do at Open Mind.
Yeah. No. You got another two, another one or
Yeah,
two.
the second, I'm really a structured guy. So we one of our values it's get shit done. So there's no place for excuse in what we do. And if you failed on something, that's okay. We don't want to hear the excuse. We want to know what you're gonna do to put everything back on track and go ahead, and we're gonna help you to go on. So get shit done. When you say something, you need to walk the talk. It's really important, and I think it's something really important if you want to have a team of A player. This value is really, really, really important. If someone fell and they didn't get shit done after that, everybody's gonna fail, and it's gonna bring all the team lower and lower and lower by the time. So it's my second favorite values of the company.
That's awesome. My favorite one that you have is don't be a dinosaur. Right. And here's the reason why is because when we work with companies, no matter how big or small they are, the core values are so important. However, they're kind of thought of as like a check the box. Yeah, we have core values. Yeah, we have a mission statement. Yeah, we have a vision statement, but no one uses them. Your employees, when we did our survey with your employees, back to us when they asked what was their favorite part, they were using the core values to answer questions. So I don't know if you had them study them before you had them do our survey, but from the way they answered it, it's like they live it themselves. And a lot of companies that I find that aren't on these lists have core values, but either the owner doesn't live by them, and more importantly, the team doesn't really get the meaning behind them. But you talked about how you developed these core values. Can you go into kind of how you develop these core values and why they are working so well for you?
Yeah. Previously, we had values that were only one word, like passion or services and quality and everything like that. And we had a really, really good consultant that came to us and said, okay, next time you work on your values, be sure to put them in action verbs so you're going to be able to use those values in your day-to-day, in your writing, in your speaking with your team, and with your customer even so. So what we've done, we put apart all the leadership team in one room, and you say, okay, take those, take your paper and your pencil and everything, and wrote down what are the qualities of the best player you see in the business. So we wrote down all those qualities, and we put sticky notes on the wall to regroup all of those qualities, and then we try to transfer those qualities in action verb. So one of the things that we saw in the team that we were and the members that we were like say, this is the kind of guy or the kind of girl we want to work with in the team, was someone who wanted to improve everything every day in their knowledge and their leadership skills. So we said, okay, how can we put it in an action verb? And someone say, hey, don't be a dinosaur. This is what we can say to someone who don't want to evolve or he doesn't want to change his mindset or his thinking. So I said, that's really good. So that's how we came with one of those values, that is, don't be a dinosaur.
Wow. So just so I understand that fully, so you brought in somebody and their suggestion to you was, don't just use a word, have an action behind it. And I think that's the biggest missing piece when it comes to core values, is we see it as an individual value, right? Work, loyalty or dedication or whatever. We try to boil it down to one word, and you kind of pulled it out and said, no, we want it to be an action driving statement. And that's probably why your team uses it when they said, don't be a dinosaur or get shit done. It's part of their language. It's part of who they are. It's part of their DNA. So that's amazing, and I think a great tip for anyone who has core values, to take a step back and recognize what actions are tied to them. And if they're just a traditional 1 or 2 or 7, or for some people, they'll have a list of all their core values, but they don't do anything with them. So to anyone who's doing that, let's together just let them know, don't be a dinosaur. Get back with the new age and do it the way that works out really well. One thing that you talked about also, which I think is fascinating, when you did your survey, and you came in and talked about this concept called wisdom seeds, right? Walk me through, when it talks about growing your people, what are wisdom seeds?
With one of the values that we talk about, don't be a dinosaur, we really try every day and everyone to see how can we improve the skills and leadership knowledge of our teams. So I'm a really, really big fan of reading books and attend to some training and doing more and more learning every day. So I was trying to see how can I transfer this passion to read books and to get as most knowledge as we can every day and every week and every month to our team. So I've seen an initiative in another company that they call the book club. So when you enter the office, and then we replicate this initiative and we iterate on that. So we put in our company a book club initiative that when you enter in our offices, there's a big wall with all the books that me and the team suggest to everyone to read. And everyone can pick up their book. Customers who can buy the office can pick a book, and they don't need to put it back there. It belongs to everybody in the business, and every customers and everybody who came along in our office. So we do a second things to go further than that. We put in place what we call a book club. So when you read a book, we try to encourage everybody to take out of their books the famous wisdom seeds. So what is a wisdom seeds? It's a phrase or a little sentence of an action that you say, okay, it's awesome, and I don't want to forget that. So and as an example, I take all the wisdom seed of the book I read and I wrote it down on some little papers like that. I have, I think, four or 500,000 of those wisdom seed. And in our book club, so it's we bring 2, 3, 4% together to exchange each one 15 minutes of their wisdom seed and talk about them with the other person in the book club. And one thing this is really funny with that is we take all those wisdom seed of the book club and we have a big Excel sheet where we say, okay, that's really good, that we need to implement this wisdom seed in the business. So they put it down in the Excel, and each quarter of the business we go down this big Excel file with the backlog of wisdom seed, and we choose what we want to do in our next quarter that's became a goal. And on each of those quarters, if they achieve the goal, there's a big reward for the people in the business. So wisdom seed is really something that change the company every month, every year. It comes from books, from learnings online, from training with coaches, and then we prioritize those wisdom seed to put them in action in the business each quarter.
That's awesome. So when I heard you say wisdom seed, I think one of the biggest issues is, we're running into this world dilemma where people think knowledge has value. And knowledge, unfortunately, has no value unless there's action tied to that knowledge, right? And when you talk about wisdom seeds, the fact that you're asking people, okay, what did you learn? And then how are you going to implement that? Like, how are we going to use what we learned? I don't care where you learned it. I don't care how you learned it. But to be wise is that having the ability to have that judgment, to use the right knowledge at the correct time in the correct way. So to train your people to be able to do it, I can almost guarantee, and I don't know anyone in your company outside of who took the survey, that teaching them to find these wisdom seeds allows them to be a little bit more self-sustaining when it comes to problem solving. Do you find that happens? Like when your people have an issue, because of what you've done and how you've built the person as the employee, do your people solve problems on their own, or do they always come to you to figure it out?
It's crazy how they can solve it on their own, and I'm challenging them every time. What's your biggest problem? And they say, okay, biggest problem now it's cold calling. So okay, do you know a book that can solve your biggest problem? Because probably there's someone who spent all their life to study that, and they put all his or her wisdom in one book that you can read in 3, 4, 5 hours, and it could solve your problem. So every time I'm challenging everybody, what's your biggest problem? Are you reading on that? And are you on a way to solve it with the knowledge of someone who practically spent all his life to do that? So yeah, everybody are better to solve their own problem and bring more wisdom to the team and to the business. And yeah, it's really a game changer.
Interesting. So we haven't had a second to ask you, what's your business? Right? What is like, what and one of the reasons why, because we sometimes forget to ask it, because when I hear about all the stuff that you're doing for your people, this is no offense to what you do. I don't necessarily care what you sell, right? That's or what you provide as a service. I think it's interesting to understand what you do. So real quick, give me a quick overview of what Open Mind does for the listeners, so they have an idea of where you're doing all of this.
Yes, we help companies that are leaders in their industries and they want to remain leaders, or the second in class who want to be leaders of their industries, and we help them to be more profitable, more efficient with the technology. So we have two big team of expertise. First one is MSP, so managed service provider. So we take in charge all the infrastructure, all the IT infrastructure of those clients. And the second team that we have in the business is custom app development. So as an example, right now in the last year with the COVID, we did a lot of dashboard automation with our customer to help them to take more better decision in their day-to-day. And it helped them a lot to be more profitable and more efficient. So that's what we do at Open Mind.
Gotcha. That's amazing. You started this when you were 19, you said?
Yeah, exactly.
Wow. Congratulations on growing it again.
Thank you.
Some of the awards that you sent over to me were not just how you take care of your people, but how you are dominating the industry and growth. And I see that byproduct being very specific. The concept of best people, best place, sometimes people ask, they go, well, why are people plural but place is singular? It's because your place is made up of the best people. And that's the one thing you do. So let's dive into the next one. And the next section that we go into is growing the individual, right? And it's a little different than growing the actual employee, because when you grow the employee, I find that means that the business you're doing for that individual, right? It's almost like a you do this, I'll do that. But some of the best companies spend time pouring into their employees, and this section of the podcast actually is not sponsored by anyone, but actually it supports a 501c3 called Eagle University, which is a youth leadership program that brings in students from all over the world to a college campus for 1 week, and they give the students a 7-year career head start. It's a nonprofit that I'm super close with, means a lot to me, and I always like to share this because I find that if we help people be better versions of themselves, they can do their job better, whatever that is. So, what are some ways that you pour into your team that you think is a little bit different than anybody else?
First of all, I don't think it's one thing that's doing all the difference. It's a multitude of little things put together that create a glue that stick with the company and the culture. One of the things that we do, and I think most of the companies do it, and I hope most of the companies do it, it's doing one-on-one with each member of the team at least 3 to 4 times a month with them. And we review with them in this one-on-one their growing and evolution plan with them. So we ask everybody to set them 3 business goals with them. It could be leadership development, it could be profitability target in their own role, or it could be learning for his own or her own job, and we ask them to give us one personal goal that they want to achieve in their life, and we ask them that this goal should be a little bit bold, not only I want to train all year long. No, we want a big goal. Do you want to do a marathon, or do you want to go more than only doing gym? Do you want to lose 25 pounds this year or not? So we try to challenge them nearby weekly with them on their business goals and personal goals. That's one of the things we do. And we invest nearly $2,000 per employees each year in their training. So with the leadership team, everybody in the leadership team have his or her own coach that follow them. We have a really good recipe with the team to take people, younger people with a little bit less wisdom in their role, and we put aside a coach that have the wisdom and the experience in this role, and we do a pairing with them to be sure they can grow rapidly and try to do some mistakes, to learn from those mistakes too, but to go faster and further than if they were alone in their own role.
That's so. One of the coaches that you're talking about, because one of your employees said it's one of their favorite things about working at your company is they have a specialized coach, is how they described it. Is that someone internal or external that you hire?
External. That external. Most of the coaches that we have, it's external. We try to see what is the biggest problem each one of our leadership member have right now, and we say, okay, who could be the best coach for them at this moment for this problem? And we don't think that coaching could be indefinitely. So sometimes it could be 3, 6, 9, 12 months, and then we ask them what's your next problem you have if you have solved the first one, and we try to help them to find and choose the best coach to go ahead and to go to the next step with them. So mostly it's externally, but we have in our team everybody who does one-on-one. It's not their boss that is doing one-on-one. We call them coach. So everybody have internal coach that is or her boss in the business, but we don't like the word boss. We think it's more the coach who is in the service for the employees that on the other side.
So, from some people listening to this, because I understand the value of what you're doing with your people, but some of the listeners are probably sitting there going, "Man, how do you do all this? How do you find the time? We haven't even talked about your business of what you actually do on a day-to-day, right? This is just what you do for your people. This whole conversation is what you're doing for your people. How do you make the time for this, and how do you bring value to this so that you're pushing aside other stuff that needs to get done because you find this has more value?"
I would say, in one word, the rocks. So our quarterly goals, we call them rocks, and we have a lot of things we want to achieve each quarter. And this is the way we can balance what we do with the staff. And there's some initiative in the rocks that is for the staff, but we have a lot of things that we want to improve. There's a lot of goals towards growing, towards profitability, towards reaching new customers. So we have a good methodic ways to be sure that our goals are going forward and we are not only unbalanced towards the staff. And we are really open as a company. We share each month our numbers with the team so they can see if we have attains our goals of profitability and growing. So they can know why we take sometimes some decisions towards the culture of the company. Sometimes we're just going to be a little bit more frugal with what we do, and sometimes we're going to have a little bit more money. And one word we use to call profitability in the business is oxygen. So we say to everybody, we need to have some oxygen first to survive, but to finance of growth and going further. And more oxygen we generate, more we can share it with the team along the way.
That's awesome. Again, and making time for this. One thing we talk about in our book, Motivated, we go into the fact that you're going to invest in your people. You either do it up front or you do it forever, right? And I think the one thing is it sounds like you're putting so much time pouring into your people. But I would ask you, once you've set up the system kind of does it for you, right? You're to the people more than Jonathan sitting down. You're not holding, I mean, you got 50 plus employees, right? You're not holding every single person's hand through every step of the way of this, right? You've built the culture around it. So how much time do you invest on a daily basis now doing all this stuff that you're talking about? Or is it more that you now have a system that's operating and it's somewhat self-sustaining?
It's more a system that is operating right now. If I can give a great example, 5 years ago, I was nearby the only one who was calling the shot for what initiative we want to do for the team and the culture. And I said, okay, it can't work anymore. It's only in my head. It's only me who's giving the ideas. It's only me who's pushing forward on that. So I asked myself, I asked the leadership team what we can do to be sure it's not on me and in my head, and every time me will bring all the ideas and push forward. So what we've done with we tried many things, but one of the things we tried along the way that had worked really well, and it's still in place today. We've found some teams that we call the open mind teams. So we have different teams of initiative in the business, and one of them is the culture team. So we did a constitution for each teams. They have their own rules, their own goals, their own budget, their own targets, their own budget of time, and their own rules to know to tell who's going to be on the team and how many months or year you can be on the team without being pushed out, to give the chance to a new person to go in the team. So the formula right now that is working really well, it's in the culture team, there's 3 permanent person, and each quarter there's a waiting list of people in the business who want to jump in temporarily in the culture team. So everybody can give their own colors to the next quarter, and each quarter we try to 5 to 10 new initiatives that we have in our backlog, and all those ideas came from the book club, from the wisdom seed that we talked earlier. So now I could say probably less of maybe 10% of the ideas that has been implemented by the team culture came from my brain or the books that I read. So now the systems work by themselves, and it grows and it grows and it gets better every quarter. So that was a huge relief for me when we were able to put that in place, and now it works really well.
So you were the one doing all of it 5 years ago, and now you've helped bring some other people in. They saw the value of doing what you were suggesting, and now they're somewhat on their own, right? It's just how the culture is driven, right? Even one of the people who did the survey for you is brand new, and they were talking about how they've never seen a place like this. I mean, they were so excited to come work because everyone was on board with it. So only suggestion, if you're listening to this going, man, John, I wish I had what Jonathan had. I wish I had what Jonathan had. Jonathan, you didn't luck out by this, right? Like, this was an intentional plan of yours to build this out and do what you've done. So there are steps to do this, and there's structures that you have in place. I've heard you use the term rocks, of quarterly goals, to help individuals actually get those goals. And that's what you're doing. You're feeding into the individual, which I think is why you have those 30 plus awards on an annual basis coming back and being finalists for best places all over the place. And you're really pouring into it. So um, when you're investing in your people, how do you know it's working?
It's a good question. I think first of all, if we see a smile on their face, it's a good sign that it's working. And then if they achieve their goals, well, we have we're really a fun company. We work hard, we play hard, but we are really strict on what we want to achieve. I'm really a human metric guy, so everything needs to be measured, and people know what they have to achieve. And I think if they hit their goals and their measure, it's the best way to know if it works or not. And as an example, one thing we were really struggling some years ago to know it's how's the health of the culture and the fun of the people in the business. So we put in place a software from Montreal. It's called the Office Vibe from GSoft. And this software helps us each week to know how does it goes in the team. And the team can write to us in the system anonymously, so they can say anything they want. And sometimes we can have some little seeds of what's going on over there, and we can take action before it creates bubbles and it bursts. So I think it's one little thing plus one other little thing that's doing all the difference. But this tools help us a lot. I think it's more than 3 years ago we implemented, and it's really a game changer for us.
All right, so the world's changed, right? Obviously, everyone understands that. It's low likelihood of going back to what it was, right? Kind of way of working. What are some of the biggest things, right? It sounds like you have everything figured out. And when we hear these podcasts, that's what you're always listening as a listener. All you think of is usually where I'm not doing what I should be doing and how are they doing everything perfectly. What are some things you're running into? What are some struggles that you're having when it comes to managing people, even though you have all these systems in place, you have this great structure that has a balance of flexibility, structure so people can use it. What are some things you're struggling with when it comes to motivation or intention or even structure itself?
The biggest thing that we struggle right now, and I think this is the same struggle for everybody we have some people in a remote situation, is I think remote work works well, but team remote work, we didn't find a great way right now to do it collectively. So we're still trying to have some good initiative to motivate people through a screen, but we didn't find the right ways to do it right now. And I think if we continue to iterate each quarter and each year, probably somewhere down the road, we're going to be able to get better, and it's going to be a while. But right now, when COVID hit, one of the things we realized it's 99% of the things that we do for the team was not remote. It was in French, it's présentiel, so in the office. So we struggled a lot last year and still now, and we get better through the year. But it's one of the things we struggle right now. It's how to be as we were fully in the office, but in remote or in hybrid right now. So it's one of the struggles we have right now. We don't have the perfect answer for that. We tried a lot of things in the last year. Some of those things are still in place today. Some of the other things we just say, okay, it doesn't work that, or it's just temporary. And one of the things we saw, it's in remote, everything we do, it's temporary. So it's hard to make those initiatives last a long time and have the same satisfaction for the team. So we need to iterate more and try more things in a shorter period of time. So that's one of the biggest things we struggle right now.
Yeah, that's great. And I think it's something that's funny. That's when our business took off with this strictly because our balance on motivation and how we had to do it from afar. Where it came from was, and I love to hear if you feel the same way, that individuals, there was two things that we lost outside of what it did to our health, right? Let's take that apart. But I'm talking strictly from the societal moving forward was it took away our basically our structure and our rhythm, right? And what we used to do was gone. And what happens is people don't realize that structure brings freedom and rhythm brings peace. and how do we capture that back? I think that's what your work you've done that's going to make it easier for you than anyone else who's not doing what you've done is you've poured into your people that they're willing to figure it out with you, and you've shown them how to use wisdom and take stuff and apply it, that your team, I can almost guarantee, will come up with the solution for you probably faster than you will when it comes to how do we actually manage everybody from this remote workforce, which again isn't going anywhere. It might get a little less, but it's always going to be there. So that's just, again, it's all about how you pour into them. One thing when it comes to working with your team, when you hire, how do you choose, right? You said one of the mistakes you've made in the past in your survey was bringing in somebody who shouldn't be there, right? How do you make sure of that? Because I do think it's important to be careful who you hire. It's careful who you bring to potentially infect, what it is you have going on. What do you do to protect that and avoid that mistake?
Well, almost all of the question we ask to people who submit their candidature to our business are in correlation with our values. So what helps us a lot right now is to be sure that each and every question we ask them is it to find out if they share really our values or not. So some people that went into the business some months or some years ago were by my fault and were probably not really correlated to our values. So being really strict in the question we do in each interview, and we have a process that we have many people who interviews the people before I interview them in the final session. So I think we're not perfect right now, but we have a really good filter along the way with the people that, and all of those people who are doing the interviews are used to our values, so they can challenge a lot to be sure is this a great fit for the business in terms of human beings. And we have some tests that we can do with those candidates for their technical skills. So we challenge them a lot at first with the human side and then with the technical skills.
Yeah. So let's talk about the talent war that's happening, right? And I know you brought it up, and I think people aren't, if you haven't felt the wrath of it, we've had clients who run into this where because everyone's remote, no matter where you're living, somebody, let's just say Silicon Valley, can pull people without having to pay reload fees and pay a fraction of what they would pay to live out there, but almost double salaries depending on where they're living. I mean, we've had clients where people have literally gotten offered twice their pay, and they obviously can't say no to it. So, what's one thing you're doing to combat that and work against that so that your people do stay with you?
It's a really good question. So, first of all, in our industry, in the service field, there's a limit of what we can give in salaries with our staff. So there's always an unfair competition of what we can do with someone who is in the United States or in another industry. So we focus on a lot of the culture and the growing plan with the staff to get them better and to get them grow. So that's one of the things we do. The second thing we do right now, it's we have an initiative called the Open Lab in the business. So it's a technological incubator for SaaS development. And why we're doing that right now is it's because we want to try to scale internationally to be able to still continue our growth and generate more profitability so we can have more weapons against those threats that came from the US or other countries that try to poach our staff. So we work on culture side and we work on strategy side to be able to run faster than them and get ahead. So I think it's an everyday challenge, and it's one of my biggest challenge right now. But we're working on that.
And I think one of the things that you have is you're not selling a commodity when you're hiring good talent, right? You're not just another tech company, which is really all most people can offer is the service they provide their customer. What you're offering to your employees is everything we just talked about for the last 30, 40 minutes. And I think that's what's so valuable is people will stay with. They're getting things that no matter how much money they're offered, they can't get elsewhere, right? Now, look, when you're getting paid double what you're getting, it's hard to argue that one, right? But when you're talking the small increments that usually will cause people to leave, they can't put a dollar amount on what it is you're doing for them because their value is so high. And that's why I think what you're doing is so powerful. It's so impressive. And again, it's going to allow you to fight through this war that a lot of people talent. And the other thing is you invest a lot in your people, like dollar to dollar. You just don't want to lose them. And how do you do it? Is you follow through with what you say. So one of the things that I see you doing very well, right? I keep giving you compliments, and please understand, it's not just because you're the guest on the show. You're the guest on the show because you've done a lot of stuff that I think is very impressive. But we talk about the killer of motivation is this little word called hypocrisy. Is I'm trying to motivate people, but I'm not doing what I should be doing. From everything your team said, you as the leader live exactly what it is that you tell them, right? It's not the, hey, I'm willing to do the dirty work, and that I'm sure you are, but they look up to you as an example of the culture of the business. For again, this is not from what you said. This is what they've said to us when we interviewed them. Is that difficult for you, or is it simple because you've built it around you, or what? What goes through your head when I tell you that your team looks up to you as how to live the culture of open mind?
But first of all, I think my own values are nearby the same as the company. So I think it's easy for me when I say work hard, play hard, get shit done, be the change you seek. It's my own core value as a human being. So I think if you create a company that is really you in your values, I think it's more easy for you to be in sync or to be in a good way with the company, and you're gonna be able to walk the talk. So I hope every day I walk the talk, and I'm trying really hard every day to walk the talk and to be sure I get shit done. I work hard, play hard, be the change I want to seek, and I think it's the way I wanted to build a business, and I think that everybody sees that, and I'm trying every day to be sure they can see it, and it's not only bullshit. We have a big poster in the office. It's no bullshit. It's a bullshit-free zone here. So no bullshit. It's important, I think, in the business.
No, I agree 100%. And I think that's something that few people recognize. When you live it and you do it for real, it's not hard to do. So that's awesome. So the third part of the program is about giving back or doing good. And I find that a lot of companies who are on this list do a lot for their community, one way or the other. So the question that I'd ask you, and where this sponsors, we sponsor this, but this is another 501c3 that we support called Take Part, which helps families with pediatric rare diseases. The tagline is "Fight for Possible." Basically, they're told, "Hey, there's not much you could do. Here's what you need to get going." Tell me real quick, what is it that you do to give back to your community through your team, through yourself, through your business, or is that not a priority of yours?
My father always used to tell me when I was younger, it's important to give back once you have something you need. Once you have the basics of what you need. So we've done two things. We are doing two things right now. I talked earlier about the open mind teams. One of the teams we have put in place, it's the community team. So there's some people in the business that are trying to help people around the business and in some non-profit organization. So one of the things we've used to do in the last 4 or 5 years, at Christmas, we collect food for a poor family around the city. So we used to help nearby 15 to 30 families each year with that. And we collect money every week on the page of the people who want to give in the business for a non-profit organization that is called Centraide. So they helped a lot of other non-profit organizations with that money. And another big thing that we are working on right now, and it's a really huge goal that we are working on. I'm on the board of the hospital foundation that is nearby our office, and we are trying right now to. We are working on a project to collect $15 million in Planet Gift for the foundation. towards more than 10 years ahead. So that's one of the initiatives we're working on. So there's like, I think 5 or 6 big initiatives working on with the team and myself right now for the community. And it's really fun and exciting to be able to give back to the community, I think.
So what do you, we've done it in all of our businesses. We call it our BAM bonus, and it has to do with money that goes to the whole team and money that gets given by the team to the community. What do you see as the, outside of just doing what's right and doing something good, what's the benefit to the company when you do things like this?
I think it's proven that when you give something or sometimes to someone, the person enjoy it, but you enjoy it more. I think when you give something, it can give you happiness and can help you to be more grounded. So by doing it so with the team, myself, and with those initiatives, I think it changed people's lives, but it gives us a lot of fun and a lot of happiness, I think so, at the end.
Right. Wow. That's awesome. What advice would you give anyone if someone was coming to try to do what you've done? What advice would you give them as far as what's the first step to build a place that's half as good or a quarter as good or as good as Open Mind? What's the first thing that you need to do on that path?
The first advice I would say, and we talked it earlier, it's start with your values. Be clear about your values and sit down with your team to choose what defines you, and be sure that those values talk to yourself as a CEO or as the owner of the company, and then be sure that those values are in action verbs, so you can challenge the staff with those sentences, and they can challenge you back, and it's going to be part of your day-to-day. So it was, I think, the biggest game changer in the last 5 years of the business, and everything went through those values after that. So I think start with the values, be sure it's actionable, be sure you're going to use it in your day-to-day and in your speech and your writings, and it's going to do some magic things along the way.
And then how do you help your people on a day-to-day basis actually live out that you've created for them? Or do you find that's hard to do, especially with the COVID world?
It's harder with the COVID right now, but as I said earlier, if everyone has their own evolution plan and their own targets, and I think everybody, and I'm doing it with my direct reports in the one-on-one. I nearby always end the meeting and say, what can I do for you? How can I help you? Right. I'm at your service, and it's not the other way. I'm there for you. So one of the examples we do, we do a walk the talk initiative. So each 2 weeks I go with 2 or 3 members of the teams walk nearby the blocks of the office, and I said to them, it's my time to that you can talk to me and tell me what's going on and what can I do for you, and which tool are you missing right now, and which training are you missing right now, and how can make this happen. So this is it. That's awesome. This is how we try to do it.
A thing that was said was company listens. When the company listens to their concerns, their feelings, their emotions, and you all do something about it, which is not a surprise after learning how you run your company, but is a surprise companies as we deal with trying to help solve some of these problems, is the fact that we want people to be able to come to us, but they're only going to come back to us if we do something about it, right? Like I bet you if I was to have some of our clients do that, those walks, the employees would be terrified of having those walks. And then as we build that relationship with the employee, I bet you your employees, I don't know if they look forward to it. It sounds like they do, but it's a pleasurable experience with them to have that walk with you. Is that correct?
I hope so. But I'm doing this thing to be sure it's pleasant for them to do it. So there's no secret question that I'm bringing on, and it's like it should be a fun time. Talk to me, tell me what's happening, how can I help you? So yeah, I absolutely are going to say it's not a frightening moment.
Yeah. when you're doing this meeting, because we have a meeting that we use with clients that we call a gratitude meeting, which is very similar, where the boss just listens. Boss doesn't solve, boss doesn't critique, and the boss doesn't defend what it is that's going on. When you do this, do you ever bring issues to them or critique them, or kind of a safer place that they can come and they know it's their turn to talk and run the meeting?
And do it as a safe place because we are more than only 2%. Normally, we're 3 to 4%. So we have something to address with someone. It's never in front of other persons. So if I have something to address, normally I'm going to do it in one-on-one in a way that I'm trying to help you. So can you give me the right to give you feedback and help you along the way to get better to something. So this is how normally I do it.
Nice. So just to kind of wrap it up, I always like to ask people, because look, you are a business, you do sell a service. We have a lot of businesses who listen to this. Who's your ideal customer? And if they're listening to this, how do they get a hold of you?
So normally business more than 10 millions of revenue each year that are in a fast growing pace. And they want to do some automation in their processes. And they want to be sure that all the IT infrastructure can take that growth. So normally that's the kind of customer that we can bring a lot of value. Even if they have their own teams inside of the business, we can complement them a lot. And if they want to reach me on LinkedIn, best way to go, it's Jonathan Levay on LinkedIn. So you can do it, linkedin.com/Jonathan Levay. Best way to reach me out.
Perfect. And we will put together a bunch of show notes. Jonathan, I appreciate what you're doing for your people. I'm not at all surprised after having this conversation and reading not only what you've said, but also what your employees have said, that you will continue to be on these lists and a model that a lot of people can take and run with. So I appreciate it. You made it through all 3 sections, didn't get hung up once. And again, a lot of it's because it seems as if you live this the way you do. Any piece of advice you'd want to add, or any last minute thing you'd want to share before we let everyone get going?
Have fun. You only have one live, so that's the only thing I want to add. Be sure to have fun in what you're doing every day. So it cannot be fun every day, but if you're looking at a long way, it should be fun. So keep having fun.
Awesome. Well, hey, Jonathan, I appreciate it. Keep doing what you're doing. Keep having the best people, and I know you're going to have the best place. So thank you so much, and we'll see you all next episode.